What's up, everybody? Welcome back to On the Block, Super Bowl edition. We brought back a few familiar faces.
Poyen, always here, Syed Transport, ready to go.
This guy plugged in a promo.
Already, 12 seconds into the show already plugging.
A free promo.
You always got to, man. Go ahead.
Bobby Bottles.
Bobby Bottles brought
First
back
time
Rob.
on the show, I think.
In person, yeah.
In person,
Obviously,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
For a few years, we're doing them remotely, but
Welcome,
good to have
man.
everybody back here. So, San Fran -2 at KC, 47.5. First, we're going to talk about the championship games, AFC and NFC. What went wrong for the Bills in Detroit, and I think we'll start off with the Bills. A few of our buddies are Bills fans. We talked about it with them. They had every opportunity. This was their year at home. They ended up blowing it. Kicker missed the kick, which I'll get into in a bit. I don't even think that. So I'll talk about it now. I still think that if they make that kick, I think that they either Mahomes comes down and kicks a field goal or gets a touchdown because that was the tie of the game, or they lose in overtime as they always do. Agree or disagree?
I agree. It's just Buffalo has been so inconsistent. They sometimes look like the best team in the NFL some weeks, and then the week after, they'll look like the worst team in the NFL. And I think that's their biggest key. As good as Josh Allen is, he's very inconsistent. Most interceptions, but at the same time, most touchdowns. Figure it out. Let's get things going, and that affects your offense. James Cook. Some weeks he feels like he's the running back of your future. Like he's such a good guy. And then all of a sudden he won't go for 10 yards, 12 yards, and and I think that was the sentiment of the season for the Bills. Inconsistency. You saw Stephon Diggs 1 week looking like an all-pro wide receiver, and then some weeks he wouldn't even get targets. So it was up and down for them. I really do think Buffalo needs to figure it out. They are a sick team. I feel they have a lot looking forward to them. It's just they got to figure it out.
The field goal kicker, that they put the blame on him. They were going to lose that game.
They were going to lose it
Yeah,
anyway.
they had to score a touchdown there. And when they got the ball, I think they had the ball with like 7 or 8 minutes left. I'm like, let's drain the clock here. I'm not a Buffalo fan, as you can tell. But I was rooting for Buffalo because it's like we watched them in like week 11 and they were like 6-5 or whatever. And then, their coach made those like ridiculous comments that
The 9/11 stuff that came out from a few years ago.
like, ridiculous. And he kept his job, which was very odd. But they went on a winning streak. And it's because they had a run game. They finally developed a run game, and it's like, okay, now they have the pieces to win. Your run game can't be
Josh
your
Allen
quarterback.
always,
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the poor guy, like it's just everything's on his shoulder. And like you said, he's an inconsistent guy. He's not a great thrower of the football. He has a huge arm,
yeah.
but he's inconsistent with his accuracy. But when he can run the ball and he has a running game, they're a very dangerous team. They weren't able to run the ball against KC. They stuffed them. Steve Spagnuolo is a fantastic D coordinator. He's probably one of the best in the league.
Yep.
And they did a great job of stuffing the running game, and that's what really led to their downfall, in my opinion, for Buffalo. Couldn't run the ball at all the game.
Agree. And I was going to say, like, some other questions they have too. Like, Diggs, I think, every offseason when they lose, he cries the blues, right? He says, I might be gone. I think it might be time to move on. I don't know his contract situation. I'd probably move on. And, of course, it's going to hurt you. Draft a guy in the first round. For the most part, there's not too many busts at the wide receiver. Gabe Davis missed a lot of games. They missed him. Knox was pretty good for them at tight end. They have some options.
I like Shakir.
He was
I
good
like
too.
I thought he
Shakir
was
as well.
good.
I thought
he
he has a lot of upside. As you said, Gabe Davis, man, I remember
Last
some of my
year,
friends
yeah.
last year he was great, consistent. This year he was just running sprints back and forth. I feel, man, no targets,
Always
no nothing, and then he was the pickings of the Bills this year.
Home run
man.
or nothing.
A home run or nothing, and that's just not winning football. I think Diggs is going to be out though. I personally think, especially with his brother's comments that
Bad
he
locker
made.
room kind of stuff, and the brother was like kind of hinting
Yeah.
at it too as he's injured.
Yeah,
like,
I just don't see it, man. I think he's undersized. I do think he has space in the NFL for him, but I just don't think he's the product that Buffalo needs. I think you need a bigger guy, taller guy that can run and cut and slash, because that's the only way I feel like Josh Allen will find you and get you.
I was going to say, you're talking quickly just about Josh Allen running. It's incredible how he hasn't got hurt yet running the ball. And I know he's a bigger guy, but the fact that he hasn't gotten hurt yet, they're lucky too, because I don't even know who their backup is. It's still the old Bears pick?
Fitz. No, I don't even know who their backup is. Yeah.
The old Bears quarterback. Anyways, they had him for a while. Or was he with Pittsburgh? My bad. Yeah, that's who it
Would
was.
you guys swipe left on their coach McDermott?
I was gonna say, I think that I'd probably get rid of him at this point.
He's had his run, like
I think you run it one more time. It's not like I mean, as you said, they had the run and winning streak. They were a plus team. I don't see where it comes down to their coaching. I think maybe with the offensive coach they gotta make some changes, but the head coach, I
There's
mean,
always things like, is it personnel? Is it coaching? So like the question is like, if you're gonna bring him back, what can get better? You're gonna bring back some better players. Like I feel like he had a good run there. They didn't expect much. They drafted Allen. They've been on the uprise, but they run into the same wall every year. You
Yeah.
can't lose the. I understand it's KC's like playing New England every year in the AFC Championship, but like you got to switch something up.
they were
Yeah.
ripe for the pick in KC this year, though.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
this was your year at home.
No
They
wide
were.
receivers for KC. Right? Like they have Rice, they have nobody. Kelsey's not the same guy. Like,
And
Yeah.
like you've got two great coaching candidates on the block right now.
ex-Titans coach
Ex-Titans coach
and Bill
Dan
Belichick.
Vrabel and Bill Belichick. Don't you think Bill Belichick would make a lot of sense there? Kind of
Going in
stick
the
it to
division
New
though,
England.
that's the only thing.
But you have a talent advantage. I feel like Bill Belichick made
Had
a lot
nothing
of
there.
sense there.
Yeah, you had nothing in
Nothing in New
Patriots,
England, but like I think that would have like, for me, that's what I would have done if I was the Bills ownership, and I guess they still could, but yeah.
I would. I mean, you have to do something. You have to bring in a new coach.
I
think.
agree.
And if I'm
I
a Bills
agree.
fan, I would want a new coach.
oh, absolutely. Like I said, I just have of this season. It's not like they did.
They started off slow and they got lucky
They
that they won the
started off
division,
slow,
right?
and
Like
that's
even in that
why,
game,
with
right?
them actually progressing the way they did, I can see why they keep the coach. But if they need to move forward with it,
You
I
can't be
don't
mad at
think
the decision.
anybody would be mad
Yeah,
at that
the
decision.
9/11 comments were like, what are you thinking? Using that analogy.
Yeah.
So I think what happened was he made the comments like 3 or 4 years ago, but it just came out.
Oh,
now.
really?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
that's
okay.
what it was. I know
thought
that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
It
I
was
thought-
from 4 years
It
ago. That's
wasn't
just research.
like
It's like an old
definitive
tweet
reason,
kind of thing.
yeah,
That's
It's like
still,
an old tweet.
That's still an egregious
Yeah.
analogy.
Yeah. So Bills, I think we're all in agreement. Move on with the coach, draft a wide receiver. The
Draft
defense
a
was
wide-
terrible too. Let's talk about that. The
Their
defense has
defense
never
was
been great, but it's worse
horrible.
every year. They couldn't get a stop the whole game.
I believe they had a lot of injuries though too.
They did. Their safeties are always hurt.
Like Poyer.
Poyer's always hurt, and the other
you
one.
know,
I feel like both those guys are always hurt. I feel like the D line is never.
Tre'Davious White was like in and out.
He was
you
out
know,
in the
like-
second year. And I get it. Like every team's gonna have their injuries, but like you need some kind of like stable guys. You need a few Pro Bowlers to plug into that
Von
defense.
Miller wasn't
Like,
playing. Like,
Von Miller
think his
didn't
days
play.
are
I think
over.
he came for like maybe the last
Like
part of the
two-
season. Yeah,
two
through
plays he was
yeah.
in that last game.
I don't think he's been the same since he blew out his knee a year or so
No.
or whatever it's been. And even then, I was shocked when he signed that deal that he had a good start when he went
Yeah.
there, right?
I don't see much difference. So I love Chris Jones. I think he's a fantastic defender. But outside of Chris Jones, the KC defense is not very good yet. They have a
They
great
play
D-
well as a team.
They have a great D coordinator, right? Like for me, that's where it would be for me if you're Buffalo. And Doug McDermott's supposed to be a defensive like wizard. Like that was his thing when he went in there.
Hasn't worked out.
I don't know if I'd be drafting defenders. Like I'd be working on the wide receiver part. But after that, yeah, maybe if you can get a linebacker or maybe somebody that's stuff
on the line. Yeah.
Maybe I another thing that I would comment on, their offensive line is terrible.
Well, yeah, if you can't,
If you can't like
can't run the
open
ball.
up, you can't run the ball at all. Like,
pass
that's-
protection has been terrible. That's why he's running for his life a lot of
yeah,
times too, right?
you
Like,
know, and that's what it comes down to, right? Your guy has to like do something, and so he starts running, and you can't really stop it. And it's worked, but I mean, you would like
it
to
doesn't
see
work in the
him-
playoffs long term.
No,
too,
and
right? Like,
that's
you need
the
to be
point.
able to sit in the pocket for a few seconds and make a throw.
He's
Yes.
almost better though getting outside the pocket. That's
Yeah.
the one place that I would kind of say let's fix that.
Later in the draft or in free
Yeah.
agency or something.
Yes, yeah.
All right, so that's it. We'll wrap up there with Buffalo. I'm hoping to see some changes there. But again, their time, like I don't want to say their time's done because they have a great quarterback and will be there for a while. But this was their opportunity. Let's move on to Detroit and San Fran. Detroit goes up to a 24-7 lead and a great start at half. And we were talking about this before we started. The live line on the game was 7.5 at halftime, which kind of freaked me out. But I don't think anybody expected what happened in the second half. We're going to talk about Dan Campbell in a second, which when we were doing the show religiously, we laughed at Sirianni and Campbell. Sirianni, hasn't been as hot, still won a Super Bowl. And now Campbell all of a sudden is like Stone Cold Steve Austin, jacked up guy that's a motivational speaker, crying in the pregame, saying he's going to go to work for his guys, right? And it worked, but going for those fours, I know they did it the whole season, but it backfired. So, Rob, I guess we'll go to you. Like, at some point as a coach, you kind of say, let's take a conservative route, even up on those fourth downs.
I believe they were all like those were analytics decisions. So I think back in my mind, just off the top of my head, I got three moments. I got the Atlanta Super Bowl, the 28-3 egregious coaching decisions. I got the Toronto Blue Jays with John Schneider last year. Egregious coaching decisions. It's like we had those two where I'm like, those were two of the worst managed games of all time, and Dan Campbell was like,
And everybody kept their job out of all those.
Right?
Yeah.
and then Dan Campbell's like, hold my beer, I got you.
Yeah.
Like some of those decisions, like I understand going for it in certain situations with certain personnel, you have a feel of the game. That 4th and 3, you've got a 41-yard field goal, you have a 14-point lead.
A good kicker, good conditions.
Yeah,
Your offense is not exactly moving the ball. Take the points.
their offense was not moving the ball at all. And just take the points. You make it a 3-score game. It's in the third quarter. You have a 3-score game.
The thing I was going to say too, though, is just like, I know that in hindsight we can say this, but in the time of the moment, we were all thinking the same thing.
Kick the field goal.
Kick the field goal.
Kick the field goal. Like San Fran does not want you to kick the field goal there. And there's a rule in sports: don't do what your opponent doesn't want you to do.
Yes.
You know, your opponent wants you to do something. Don't do that.
That's what their game plan's for.
Yeah, they're like, if they kick a field goal here, it's a 3-score game. Our offense is not moving the ball. Our defense is not stopping anybody.
Now we have Purdy that has to air it out a little bit more. We can't run the ball as much.
and we're going to start at the 25, right? I believe it was the
35 or something like that. Yeah.
like
Better field
and
position.
momentum. You
Yeah.
gave them momentum at home, and it was an egregious decision. And then he went for another one, and it was like it wasn't
Trying
as
to piss
bad.
away the game. Almost.
Yeah, for me that first one was a
Was
real
worse.
bad decision, and you just gave them momentum. And I mean, San Fran got lucky at the end of the day, but like Detroit helped them just as much as.
I agree.
Between coaching decisions, we talk about like the amount of drops that happen there and just like dumb plays, and it's like,
Well, I mean, Reynolds dropped the bag so many
Yeah.
times. It was horrible to see. You saw Goff, like, he actually stepped up. He had a good game all around. I think he made the right play
it was
at the right time, what he needed to do. You have an amazing offensive team. Defensive, you have a great team, I feel like.
They might have the
Detroit-
best tight end in football. As a rookie.
Yeah.
Sam Laporte, and then you got Hutchinson on defense. Like, you know, like you got really good players, consistent players, just the wrong plays at the wrong time. And that comes down to Dan Campbell. As good as a coach I think he was before, that showed how big of a rookie he is when it comes to those
Adjustments in
type
the middle of the
decisions.
game, right? And that's why.
And for me, I would throw him out the next day. Like, you showed that
You're
you
not
cannot
going to,
handle
but
this.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Yep.
a tough one.
Well, for me personally, I'm as a Detroit fan. You showed me that you can handle the moment. We got to the moment, you couldn't handle it, and that's not good enough.
I want to say something to people. I think if you ignore analytics, you are an idiot. But if you
If you
just
do-
blindly listen to analytics,
You're also
analytics does not, and I've said this for a long time, analytics cannot quantify situations, personnel. You cannot quantify that with numbers. Like you can talk about bringing people in, how are they going to mesh in your room? You can talk about going for it on 4th and 3. Well, who's your quarterback? Well, how's your
who's the
offensive line?
defense? Is there
Who are you
momentum?
up against?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the situation?
Is it rating? Whatever the fuck. Yeah.
Analytics does not take that into account, and that's been my argument all the time. Analytics is not the cake. Analytics is the icing on the cake to reinforce what your eyes see, and that's the way. I believe Dan Campbell, who I can't believe this, seems like
The opposite kind of guy. you'd
he's
say.
very aggressive, and I like aggressive, but there's some times where you're like, you know what,
Use your brain here.
let's kind of
Pump the
make
brakes.
Just take the 3 points. Everybody should, like, it comes back to that time where Marshawn Lynch didn't run it in. Like, you knew that we had to just do that, and it was the perfect
And at
decision
least
to
if you
do.
lose, you lost making the right call.
Making the right decision.
Exactly.
And you look at, you say, we lost with our best player. We had 1 yard to go in, whatever it was, but that wasn't the case.
And and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that's where, as a fan,
And even as a fan, you have
I
faith in your
think-
team.
I think that's where I, with Dan Campbell, see that was more of a selfish thing for him to make him look good. Like, hey, look,
Living by
I
the
did
sword,
this.
dying by
I
the
was
sword
the
of
one
the
that
Lord.
called, and that's the problem
Yeah.
with it. Where it wasn't a
It's
team decision, it
An
was
ego.
his ego decision.
Even if they score a touchdown, it's still a 3-score game. They kick a
Ex-
field goal, it's a 3-score game.
And there
Now,
you, that's
so
it.
you're a Detroit fan, and I think like, I was a guy that was like, we banged on Dan Campbell because we're like, this guy looks like a disaster. He's done a good job, but how much of it is the GM has put together a really good roster there.
Absolutely.
Do you think how much
And the
like,
coordinators are obviously doing their job
coordinators?
too.
I mean,
Offense, anyways.
the offensive coordinator is a very highly coveted
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
But
Absolutely.
they had a fantastic draft. I mean, you got Laporta, you got.
We took a running back in the first round though, which is never.
But he was Jameer.
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
He's
He was
looking like a
fantastic.
star.
Laporta second round, third round. They got a linebacker, I believe.
Yes, and then they got that CB as well. What's his name?
Was that the one that went down with that ankle Achilles injury that came back in the middle of the season?
So
he was really good.
how much is it is
His
Dan
success
Campbell is
attributed
good,
to
or
the
how much is it
roster.
is the GM has just put together a great team?
Which
well,
we're gonna.
obviously, during the season, you need to call the right plays, do the right motions, do what you need to do, and I think they've done an excellent job at that. Don't get me wrong. I think during the season, it was it was a good aggressive approach. Like you needed to do something, change things up, show that you know what, I'm the guy. We're the team. We're the hard-nosed team that's gonna make those decisions to do it. However, just because that's your identity doesn't mean you have to mess it up the last second where everybody else is expecting you to do that.
And no adjustments, right? Like,
And no
you can't go for
adjustments.
fourth down every time when you cross
And
the
that's
50.
the
You
issue.
just can't do it because
Can't do it.
even if analytics say 60% of the time it's the right call, you have to, it's like anything else, read the situation,
And
right?
that's
You
it.
can't,
You give the other team momentum. San Francisco is not a team that will just take your mistakes and not run.
they
with
had,
it.
I was going to say, speaking about rosters, we'll get to that later. San Fran, you talked about it years ago. Probably the best roster in football.
I think so.
Right?
I think
Like,
all around
skill
you
positions,
think
defense,
everybody
right?
like for they have a star in every single position. They made Brock Purdy into a star now because of these decisions. I think a lot of that comes down to the offensive coordinator and the options that he has. I think Christian McCaffrey makes everybody look good. However, when you give a guy like that who has options, you're gonna lose the game.
I think my thing is make Brock Purdy beat you because you can talk about
Let
how
him
great
sit in the
roster
pocket maybe a
is.
little. Yeah.
Make him come back.
Yeah.
Make him score 3 touchdowns. Don't give
Don't
him an
give them to
opportunity.
him.
Yes, and you can talk about coaching. In the first half, Detroit was moving the ball like crazy. They didn't move the ball as well in the second half. I wonder how much is it San Fran made adjustments at halftime. Detroit didn't, and I mean they gave a 7th round pick an opportunity to. They didn't dig a hole for Brock Purdy like they could have. They kicked that field goal. That hole is deep, and San Fran is a great team, but San Fran has to put like
They
I
don't
said,
do well
San-
from behind.
They don't do
Yeah.
well from behind. They're not the Chiefs. They're not a team with a great quarterback.
I
They're
agree.
I think Brock Purdy's more of a system guy.
I agree with you,
And
but like I said, he does have weapons and he utilizes those.
And even
weapons.
those runs, like those long runs he had, which he's never done before in his life, like where were the linebackers? Why are you doubling? I know, like I said, this is all in hindsight, but I mean, everything went wrong for the Lions. That
No
day.
question. I think the one thing that Dan Campbell has in his pocket is that they were ahead of schedule. They shouldn't have been here.
Yep.
This was not their year yet. Like they are still a young team
I
growing.
agree.
So they're not going to get rid of him. And I don't think he deserves to get rid of him over this one game. Let's
They
see
remind
it
me.
over.
I was gonna say they remind me a little bit about Cincy, minus having Burrow, but just ahead of schedule when they got to the
It's
Super
ahead of
Bowl.
schedule. Yeah.
But we know, like we've seen it even with Cincy now. You could have an injury. Like they just lost their coordinator now to the Titans, the offensive coordinator. Like you can't take these things for granted because it's not like basketball where the best team is going to be there every year.
Yeah.
Like, look at the Bills. They get to an AFC Championship probably with their worst roster in 5 years.
Again, a team that was ahead of schedule. So yeah.
And now, then all of a sudden, you have, and we talk about this, I talk about this all the time. Once you pay that young Mahomes, you pay that Josh Allen, you don't have the ability to spend money on a Stephon Diggs and bring in a star this, a star that. Now it's the opposite, like KC. Their defense was all draft picks and guys on minimums minus Chris Jones and maybe 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, let's see how good of a coach and a GM you are.
I agree. And to go back to the Dan Campbell thing, like it's just frustrating because as a guy that I feel like is not selfish, those calls show that he was very selfish, and I think it's to your point. It's because they're ahead of time. It's a
Playing with house
learning
money.
call.
Without money, yeah.
It's a learning curve. You will be better, but if you see this again,
Yeah.
that's when you
Yeah.
make the call and you have that conversation because clearly he hasn't learned from his mistakes.
And I guess lastly, to wrap up on NFC and stuff, is just like I said, it doesn't matter where your schedule or timeline is. We saw with Green Bay this year, Love was the guy in the first month of the season. I watched broadcasts, they're saying they're probably gonna have to draft another quarterback.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like I didn't watch a little bit of the midseason. I watched the Thanksgiving game. Since then, they're talking about him like he's gonna be Aaron Rodgers. And I told Brandon, I was like, guys, let's pump the brakes. He's not a bust. He didn't look good. He has a great offensive line. The wide receivers are trash. They have a good running game. Like, let's not appoint him yet. Let's wait a little bit.
They're already saying max quarterback already. Like
Off of what?
I
a season.
myself have said that I think he's going to be a generational type of quarterback. I see it. You see it. Yes,
made
at the
good throws.
start, he's
Well.
made the right decisions, and that's what you want to see from your quarterback.
When Rodgers misses
Run it
games,
when
he
you
didn't look
need
great,
to,
too.
pass it when you need to, make the right play at the right time, find the guys that are open. It was very, very methodical what Jordan Love did at this age, at this time. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna go crazy
I have to
ahead.
call him generational. You're not going to
And
go ahead.
but I mean, like I said, for me, it's more of like you see the right plays, and Green Bay's been lucky with quarterbacks forever, and you see that Love is actually just right there coming
We'll see.
along.
Again, like I want to see one more full season of him, right? But the thing I always look at with quarterbacks is I want to watch the ball come out of their hands, and it looks good. I can't say it. Like he hits a lot of his guys. It's a good throw.
And that's
The
why.
mechanics have been good. It looks
played
good.
great for the last like 7 weeks. Great.
Yeah.
But it's 7 weeks.
That's
And
what I'm saying.
I don't know
wanna
if you
see
guys
some
can see this team. You know, we traded for Russell Wilson and then instantly gave him a massive contract when they didn't have to. He still had a year left. And it's like, why are you paying a
One
guy
of the worst
early?
contracts in NFL history.
One of the worst contracts. If we had seen, he was only making like I think 10 million that first year. We would have seen him be like, oh my god, this is not the same guy. And then they wouldn't have paid him all that money.
And we talked about that year when we were doing the podcast a lot. When he broke his hand or whatever happened, that season obviously he was not the same guy. It seems like he's never really recovered from it. He's not mobile anymore, obviously.
Yeah, maybe this is what he is. Maybe this is what scrambling quarterbacks are when they can't scramble as well. Like he wasn't making those miraculous.
He was never a guy that would thread the needle. He threw the best deep ball back then.
Great deep ball, yeah, but he was a guy that was improvising and he couldn't play on schedule. And we saw when he couldn't play off, like he couldn't scramble and make those off schedule plays. Like
Didn't look good.
this is what he is, you know.
Yeah, but I think with Jordan Love, he's still younger
He's
in
very
comparison.
young, no question.
And then you
It's
had,
looking good.
it's-
I want to
it's
see it
just
looking good. We just say we
good.
want to see more.
And
time.
when I say generational, it's just because of the fact that Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, I want to add Jordan Love
It's
to
not
that
fair if
list.
they do it. No, it's not. Don't say that. It's not fair. He's trending in the right direction, but
Even if he keeps that up, oh good.
but
We need
development
more.
progression is not linear.
Yeah.
So just because he
Of
did this
course.
does not mean it's going to continue. He might get here.
Absolutely,
and then just stay here.
absolutely.
And look at
So
Burrow
I just
too,
think
right?
that
He's
Green Bay is looking like a really good team. They're a young team. They're up and coming. Great running game, good passing game. They got a great defense. I just think that the projection for Green Bay is only going to go high from
in
here.
that division.
Because everybody
Detroit,
thought that they were going to be a bust as soon as Aaron Rodgers left. I think that they've done pretty good.
I thought they were going to be a 500 team just because the division wasn't great. I thought the Lions were going to
Yeah,
be good.
they're a well-run organization, though. I will
Yeah.
say that. You can say a lot of things about Green Bay, well-run organization. So
Yeah.
always have a good offensive line. I don't know how they do it. They take in guys that were terrible and they're
Drafted or high.
I don't get it, but they are a well-run organization. You got to give them all the credit in the world.
All right, we'll wrap up that. We're gonna go right back with Super Bowl. So Super Bowl's coming up this Sunday. Chiefs, San Fran. I mean, looking at the beginning of the season, it's probably a game that most people would have not been shocked if you see these two teams in the final. I mean, the road they took together was very different. Kansas City's gone on the road and pretty much dominated, whereas San Fran has struggled in their games, both home games as well. So, I mean, Rob, I guess we'll go to you first. Your thoughts on the game, and then when you're done, your picks. I mean, the spread's -2, the total's 47.5. Take it away.
So first off, I picked San Fran to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. I watched those first two games against Green Bay and against Detroit, and I can't believe this is the same team that through the year just dominated people. Like it seemed like every week they were taking different teams out to the 10-point favorites, 11-point favorites, and covering, and like they were taking people out to the woodshed and just
Beating them down.
And I watched them against Green Bay, and Green Bay should have beaten them. Green Bay was the better team. I watched them against
Yep.
Detroit, and Detroit should have beaten them.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I have no confidence in them, which means they're probably going to win the Super Bowl because that's just how football works. We know once we get down on a team. But I've never felt less confident in a number one seed. I can't remember a number one seed going into a Super Bowl like with so many question marks. Like they have not looked good in the playoffs so far, and they're quite frankly they're lucky to be here.
Yeah.
If they weren't the number one seed, they probably wouldn't have been here right now. From the KC side, I didn't expect them to get there this year.
They didn't look good all year too. Like I mean, sorry, they look good, but they didn't look great.
Let's go back to your theory of once you pay your quarterback, all of a sudden the other positions come down. I mean, outside of Travis Kelce, who's played great, Mahomes and Chris
Rice has
Jones,
been
but they're
Oh, you're talking about
really
elite
kind of
players.
guys.
Yeah.
Outside of that,
It's Mahomes and Straps.
this is not a these are not,
It's not a good roster. Yeah.
I mean, they're obviously great head coach in Andy Reid,
Yeah.
great defensive coordinator in I'm blanking on his name, Spagnuolo. I didn't expect them to be here. I'm not surprised they're here. It was kind of a down year for the AFC.
Burrow went out too.
There could have been any team. Like I could have picked 4 teams. I was like Baltimore looked pretty good. Buffalo, we talked about Buffalo.
Miami at the beginning of the season. We talked to
Miami
at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
They were getting Super Bowl money and they were killing teams.
I think them going into KC that first week and minus whatever it was killed them. But just to keep on the Chiefs, I think the defense doesn't get the credit it deserves. A lot of no-name guys, but they play really well as a
Physical.
unit.
Very well.
And that's why I think they're going to win the Super Bowl is because I think their defense is going to carry them. And just Mahomes, he just seems to do just enough to win. Like the guy is spectacular. For me, talent-wise, maybe the best quarterback we've ever seen.
Yeah, we used to talk about this. Rodgers, before Mahomes was in the league, Rodgers threw the best ball. Rodgers could run. Like not stats or mine, just like the physical tools for me was Rodgers. It's Mahomes. I said that a few years ago. It's almost like when Steph Curry was coming, I was like, this guy's the best shooter. He's not yet, but he will be. Mahomes is going to be the best quarterback ever.
For me, it brings it back to this guy, John Elway. He's John Elway, but with a great roster. I mean, John Elway for years carried bad teams and bad rosters. We're seeing what John Elway probably would have done if he had elite coach, elite tight end, good line. When he first started, he had decent wide receivers, and he has a good defense. And that he's got everything. And I don't want to see them win. I'm rooting for San Fran, but
Because it's in the division too for you.
Yeah, and I don't want to see them constantly win.
That's why people got sick of New England, right? It's the same thing. Like I remember when KC was coming up, I was like, I love Mahomes. I like the team. They went from having the best offense and the worst defense to now it's Mahomes and a bunch of guys with a great defense.
We root for underdogs. We don't root for.
You get tired of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. For me, my pick is San Fran. I just think that they got more tools. As good as Mahomes is, I just feel like, I agree with all your points, Robin. I think San Fran has shown that they're very shaky. They showed that there are a lot of cracks to their game, but when you're on the big stage, you're gonna show out. I think that they have a lot of weapons. I think they have a lot of options. Their defense has looked pretty good. Obviously, the first half, not so much. Second half, like you said, it was a lot of questionable plays from Detroit. But at the same time, it took them to the fourth down. It's not like they let them go. It's not like they let them air it out all the time. I do think that San Francisco, with Christian McCaffrey healthy, if his calf is not bothering him and he's going to play full game, I think you break into that KC defense. I think that's the one thing that Detroit, the second half didn't really do too well, and because that was the pass rush. And I think they're going to figure it out. That's my pick. As good as KC is, I think their luck is going to run out against San Fran.
I would love to just add in, San Fran has by far the better roster.
Absolutely.
Like you can say Chris Jones, Kelsey, and Mahomes are like, you could say they're the 3 best players in the game.
Yeah, I was going to say the next 15.
Right, the next 15 are all Niners.
Yeah.
And like resoundingly, like it's not even close. So
The next best players on KC might be players on their O line, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they're not a great O line. Like I don't even know who their next best player is. Like outside of those 3, like the San Fran has like just off the top of their whole O line is good. Their linebackers are good. Their D line, Nick Bosa. Like we won't even talk about Nick Bosa and Chase Young.
I was going to say Chase Young has been in there, and that's just adding it.
But we don't even talk about their tight end is
Kittle, who's
Kittle.
probably could be the best in the league, right?
And it's funny
most
because
complete.
last game he barely got any
barely got
targets
any touches. Yeah, he's like
because
that.
everybody else is, you got Ayuk, you got Samuel, you got McCaffrey.
I was going to say, so a few years ago we talked about Debo a lot, and I was big on Ayuk, and I don't know if he was in the doghouse or what. I thought he had a lot of talent. He wasn't getting the kind of touches because Kittle got a lot more the last few years.
Yeah.
Now I think they're trying to save Kittle a bit because he's taking a beating. He was always hurt. They want to preserve him a little bit, and now Ayuk's probably stepped in to be behind McCaffrey, their best player on offense, right?
Yeah.
I agree, and it's like I said, when you have options like that, I do think Brock Purdy is a little bit more situational, and he's not as But last game against Detroit, you know, he was under pressure. He started running, started getting comfortable, and that's what you want to see from your quarterback, not to just stick in the pocket, which he is. Brock Purdy is a pocket quarterback. However, when push came to shove, he ran. He got those first downs. He did what he had to do, and I hope to see more of that, and I'm entrusting to see more in that. And that's why, based off of last game, yes, it was shaky. They shouldn't have been here, but I think now that they're here, I think they're just gonna run with it.
Was anybody else surprised at Brock Purdy's running ability? Like, I didn't think he could do that. I didn't know he
I
could
was
do that.
surprised,
When he
man.
took
I
off, I'm
was
like-
amazing. Yeah, and I think that's what you want to see more of, because everybody kept talking about the fact that he's just always in the pocket, and well, not deservingly so, because he has so many options to throw to, and then just drop the ball off, dish it, even rugby, throw it to Christian McCaffrey if you have to, and he'll just do the rest, right? So you saw that, you saw him scramble, and I know he's going to be doing a lot more of that against KC, but it shows that he has those options and he's able to do it, and that was a very warming sight. So 49ers, man.
Yeah, I don't have so much faith in the 49ers, and I'll tell you why. I was going to say, if you're Spagnuolo, you're that defense, what's your game plan to beat the Niners offense? For me, it's like you said earlier, make Brock Purdy beat you. I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to contain him there, make sure they have all their coverage there. I think they're going to force him to beat you. You want to run? They saw the tape last week. You think they're not going to be prepared for it, for guys to come? You talked about a prop, which you're going to get to a bit later in terms of like the spread of how much a team's going to win by. The more I think about this, KC, I think, might just dominate them and blow them out. And I know it sounds crazy. It just, these big games, we talk about winning in sports a lot. Why do certain teams win the big game? Why can't the Bills win the big game? Kansas City knows how to win. They have the piece in defense that they've never had before. Their defense has carried them this season. We know that because the offense hasn't been great. I think Kansas City's going to go. Like, they were my pick at +2 anyways. Money line, it was +100. I'll take both those, and I'm going to smash the under, because I think this might be a game where it's like 27-10 or something like that. I think that it might get ugly, and that kind of hit me as the show went on, when I kind of started analyzing a little bit. I had KC the whole time anyways, but at this point, for whatever reason, I'm kind of worried about San Fran. They're a little bit dinged up too, I think. A lot more.
They are dinged up.
They are dinged up, and I think that maybe that's why they haven't looked as good either, why they've been struggling, right? Something we can't tell. I think that they're beat up a bit.
Their defense has not looked as good. Like, I'm a big Fred Warner guy. I mean, he's fantastic, and he was like a steal. I think he was like a 3rd or 4th round pick.
He's amazing.
But their defense has not looked like anything what it was at the beginning of the year. Like,
Well, they're getting picked apart by
love,
Love.
hard
Yeah.
by like, and Detroit sliced through them. The running game was able to move the ball on them. I think this is going to come down to the running games. If KC can get Pacheco going, they'll be good.
And open up the throwing game.
And if KC can stop CMC, that's the big thing. If you stop CMC,
They're
I
done.
think you stop.
They're done
Pacheco.
then. Yeah.
And he might be the most dynamic player in football, because he just always seems to get 5-6 yards when he needs it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I look back at that trade and I'm like, how did he go for? Was it a second or a third?
NFL trade.
Well, I was gonna say, like, end of the contract or whatever it was, but also I remember we talked about this when we were doing the betting stuff. Like, he was injured every week.
He's injured.
He was injured every week, and now he's managed to stay healthy there. Maybe less touches, whatever it is. I guess that's why they got him, but that was the missing piece. One other thing I want to talk about, when I sent you guys that voice that I was listening to the radio, when they were getting on Shanahan, because we talk about him as being this mastermind, which he is, but also how lucky he's gotten in these playoffs, and how guys like Dan Campbell have made him look good when it would have been possibly an embarrassing loss.
Do you think, like, I'm a big, like, pressure guy.
Does he crack under? Does he fold?
Like, how much of it is this is a Super Bowl rematch that we haven't talked about at all. If San Fran wins that Super Bowl, because they were the better team in that first Super Bowl, like, they outplayed KC. KC was very lucky to win that game. Do you feel like, I feel like Kansas City got that Super Bowl. There's no pressure. There's no like, hey, can they win the big one? Now they've won it. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan is under that pressure of, like, he's been anointed as like
The greatest
the
mastermind
greatest
since
young
Belichick
quarterback,
kind of thing, yeah.
greatest young coach over the last 5 years. And then you had Sean McVay win, and you had the Chiefs beat him, and it's like, I wonder how much of it is this guy's he's folded under pressure, and now there's that pressure of, you got to get the first one. Like, there's always going to be those questions of, can you win until you get that first one? The Chiefs got it against them. I wonder if he just, because I think he's a good coach, but.
And he has the
some
best
point-
roster, like you talk. It's not like
Yeah,
they're
best roster.
deficient with,
No,
like,
right,
it's the
right.
best coach probably with the
Right.
best roster.
You got to win. And like, I think he's got the most pressure on that
I
San Fran
agree.
team.
I
So
agree.
it's on him right now. The Chiefs have no pressure. They
They're
really weren't-
underdogs in the Super Bowl.
and they weren't supposed to really be here. And like they've got two already. You know, I wonder how much that Super Bowl, if San Fran wins that, I wonder how much more, you know, Kansas City gets a little bit tighter. You know, Mahomes gets a little bit tighter. Maybe Kyle Shanahan might be a little tight in this game. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. I think what it's gonna come down to is decision making. As you said it, you know what? I don't see analytics playing a big part of this game. I think what it's gonna come down to is what's working for each team. If the running game is working, they're gonna stick to the running game. If the passing game is working, they're gonna stick to the passing game. And I think you just mix it up and you just go with that there. I don't think it's gonna be a Dan Campbell type of situation where
Well, as I'm saying, you
Or
have two
in
great
the-
coachers, right? There's probably not gonna be any coaching errors here, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
and I think
so.
that's what it's gonna come down to. Obviously, in this type of situation, you're gonna go with Andy Reid with coaching, but at the same time, it always comes back to who has the better roster,
Yeah,
and that's San Francisco. By I think it's not even close when you have the offensive package that they have. Obviously, you got the best quarterback, but when your quarterback doesn't have options to throw to, I mean, are you really, you know?
well,
How
we've
much
seen him
more?
make it work with anybody. It doesn't matter if he has Kelsey and Tyreek Hill or if he has Rice and whoever they're at Scanlon. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. I was gonna ask you guys one question. If KC goes up early, is this game over? Because you're not coming back against Detroit and their bad defense and decision making.
No,
You're
no.
going against the best
It's
defense in
done.
football and a great coordinator and a coach. I think if Kansas City goes up, they get two quick touchdowns, they go up 10-0, and you're forcing Purdy to throw the ball more. I think they're gonna force him to throw it anyway. They're gonna kind of sit back. You can beat us, bro. Do your thing. But that's not gonna work
Yeah.
anyway.
You think they're gonna
They
stack
go
the
up,
box
it might-
or anything?
I don't know.
So they
Steve,
stop
I
the
don't
run,
know. Like,
or back up and say, see, if they don't stack the box, then they're
just
gonna
send, I think they're just gonna send four. Maybe keep it like the linebacker there for the
Okay.
run and kind of do it,
I think Spags will have some interesting blitz concepts. I think that's where I'm wondering.
and
if,
make
like,
him
young
actually make
quarterback-
some
yeah.
decisions. On, okay, let me look for these guys. These
Yeah.
guys. You know what I mean? Because San Fran's O line is great too. Best left tackle. You know what I mean? Like they have a great. But it's going to be interesting to see those lines go against each other, the D and the O line. Again, I think Kansas City's going to score quick, a few ones, and then San Fran's going to score to play from behind.
You know, I kind of wish D'Amico Ryans was still here with San Fran, because then I'd be more confident. Like, there's a massive edge with Steve Spagnuolo. I don't even know who the.
I was going to say I don't know who their defensive coordinator is.
I don't even know who
either.
it is,
Yeah.
but the only reason I think if they get up, Kansas City's gonna roll is that you have Steve Spagnuolo. He's a great defensive coordinator.
He knows
He's
what he's
like,
doing.
he for me, like, they talk about the offense and everybody gets credit. He never gets any credit. Yet he always has a pretty substantial defense. And the year that they won because of the defense. Like, it wasn't because of the offense. The
Right.
defense held San Fran.
Yeah.
They held them to field goals when San Fran was dominating, moving the ball, and eventually they gave the offense a chance to win. But he does not get the credit. If he gets a lead with these guys,
It's a wrap.
you'll see
I think it's a
some,
wrap.
you might see some
Turnovers.
blitzes, and
Interceptions, and that might lead to that blowout.
and like you said, KC knows how to win. Detroit doesn't know how to win yet. Green Bay doesn't know how to win yet. KC knows how to win, and that's the scary part.
And if the game is close and it comes down to the end, you know, it's not Josh Allen going down the field or Burrow, or obviously it's not going to be Mahomes. You're going to have Purdy with a 2-minute drill at the end of the game, and how confident can you be in that, especially going against that Kansas City defense?
I mean, I don't want to knock on Purdy as much as he is a system quarterback. I mean, there was MVP discussions for him this year.
I want to
man.
talk about that too.
And he was playing phenomenal. He's been playing phenomenal. I get it. He's not your Patrick Mahomes. He's not your ideal name, but he's been playing great. Yeah, he had a couple of bad games against Baltimore. He got blown the hell out, and it exposed his game. However, when the going gets tough, you make Christian McCaffrey your quarterback. You hike it to him and just let him do it. And don't get me wrong, it's because they have that option. If 49ers didn't have CMC, I would be worried here. But the fact is that he's there, and as much as I want to panic, you just throw the ball to Debo. I mean, if you don't throw it to Debo, throw it to Kittle. If you don't throw
If
it
you
to
have
Kittle,
that time,
you
though,
have
that's the thing.
Ayuk. I mean,
I
the
don't know if he's gonna
offensive
have that
quarterback is there. I think that even if you need Christian McCaffrey to be your blocker, I don't see why not. You know,
Ask him to pick up Chris Young when he's coming at you. Just fucking chop him. Do you want to say something?
I got a winning margin because I like San Fran, and if I had San Fran to win the Super Bowl, but I'm gonna go with KC. I got a winning margin though, 7-12. I think it's playing plus 550.
Oh, for them to win by 7 to 12 points.
KC wins by 7-12 points. I have a 31-21 KC final.
Wow.
It's a weird final. I watched an Instagram reel and it influenced me to do.
Is it a Simpsons episode prediction?
It might be in some instance. If not, I would have taken San Fran to win, but I'm gonna go KC 31-21, exact score 31-21 and 7-12 on the winning margin. Plus 550. I can't even find that exact score because I'd love to bet it, but just a little quirky thing. I like going with conspiracies and that kind of stuff. So 31-21.
What about Super Bowl MVP? You guys want to make a pick on that?
I think the Super Bowl, because I think the 49ers are going to win. I think it's going to be CMC, and I have the final score being 27-23.
Well, so you have it going over then. It's 47.5 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, if San Fran wins, I think CMC wins. I have the two. San Fran wins, CMC wins.
Yeah.
If KC wins, I can't see anybody other than Patrick.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
It's
like,
so
who else?
boring. It's so chalk. Like Pacheco, I don't
Like,
see Pacheco.
I was gonna say,
don't
for
see one of the
Kansas
wide
City
receivers.
to win and him not get it, it'd have to be like a 14-10 game or something, right? Where like,
Yeah.
he doesn't do anything and they get like a pick six on defense. I was gonna say, for me, it's Mahomes. It has to be. Like, Kelsey's the only other guy. Maybe if he kind of has a few touchdowns, maybe you look at that.
I think for 49ers, it's CMC. For Kansas, it's got to be Mahomes. It's either or for either team. You
When
know.
you get the low scoring ones, you might get like a defender that has 2 interceptions that gets it.
When
but for the
Tampa
most
won it, I
part-
remember they had like a safety.
Derek Brooks. It was Derek Brooks, the
versus
linebacker.
Jackson, was it?
Derek Brooks, I believe, linebacker, wasn't it? Maybe Jackson.
I think Dexter Jackson had like 2 safety, or the safety had 2 picks. One was a pick
Picks,
six,
yeah.
and one was like when they're out of the
I
end
thought it was
zone.
Derek Brooks, but yeah, I might be wrong.
That was the Grammatica days in like 02 or 03 or something like that.
0-2. Yeah.
Any last thoughts on the season, on the game?
I got one more prop,
Okay.
and you're saying that this is a terrible bet, but I got the shortest TD over 1.5 yards, so there will not be a 1-yard touchdown in the Super Bowl. Plus 115, you're getting plus money for you have a 1-yard gap. First of all, they get stopped at the 1, and then you've got to punch
Well,
it
with
in.
2 good defenses. I was gonna say, I feel like McCaffrey had like a 1-yard last week. Did he? I feel like he punched one in within a
No,
few.
it was a 3.
Okay.
3 or 4.
And that's
So you're saying there's no tush pushes this game?
There will be no tush pushes. You don't have the tush push going on. Yeah, no, I just plus 115. I like getting plus money. I'm a big plus
Yeah.
money guy.
What heads or tails?
I'm always go tails. I don't know if I bet that. But I
Heads or
always go
tails?
Can I?
tails.
Can I
Trivial
say
bet.
something? Because I see this all the time. I see people making these bets. Do not make this bet because all you're doing is giving the casinos the 10% juice.
That's
Find your buddy. Say, who do you like? You like heads? I'd take tails. If you want to do it so that you're straight money,
Saving the juice.
you're saving the
You're giving
juice,
the-
and then
someone's
it's
winning.
you're getting even money. It's
what
a
color's the
coin flip.
Gatorade?
I won that bet last year. It's
I
funny.
think I did too.
It was purple because I remember I did it for my dad. I did like a few little single things
This
for my
year
dad
it's
on like
blue.
a pro line.
This year's blue.
This
You're on
year's blue.
It paid like it was like 12 to 1 on the pro line or something like that
Is,
for my dad.
is there a Super Bowl logo blue in there? Is that where you're getting that? Where are you getting the blue from?
I'm getting the blue because I think there's a commercial with Patrick Mahomes drinking blue Gatorade.
Oh, so you're a big script guy.
Yeah, it's got to go with the
That's-
script, you know?
Heads or tails? I don't know. Heads. I go heads. I always go heads. I don't
Heads.
know why. Yeah. But don't make people do not make that bet on. I'm like gonna get.
Yeah, or like the
I'm
anthem,
a heads
that
guy
kind of
as well,
stuff.
so let's
Just
go
find a
with
buddy and make the bet.
Just looking at players to record a sack. Okay, so I guess any last thoughts on the Super Bowl? You guys are good.
It'll be a fun game. We'll see how good of a halftime performance it's gonna be with Usher.
Yeah.
Out of the booth, maybe.
I don't think it's
That's plus money. That's like plus thousands.
Stay in the booth and keep her off the cameras. Please stop banning her every time he makes a catch. We're gonna have to see her 8 times in that game.
yeah.
There's. Can I tell you something? Oh, sorry. Off.
Yeah.
I'm a Denver fan, so I already do not like KC. But I never hated KC. This team is so
Unlikable.
unlikable.
Yeah.
Holy cow! On the field stuff, off the field stuff, throwing kicker stuff all over the place.
The pregame stuff from last week,
That was
right?
pathetic.
I don't
Like,
know. I saw the video, but I didn't
I
understand. So
like it.
I hated it too, and especially because I saw video of like their kicker
Mahomes,
on
was it
there.
Mahomes and Kelsey?
Mahomes and Kelsey, and they're like, well, their kicker shouldn't be on our side of the field. Their kicker just, I forget I'm forgetting the KC kicker's name. He's on the other side of the field. Butler, he's
Harrison
kicking,
Butker, yeah.
he's kicking from the Baltimore side, and it's like they're so
You're just trying to
unlikable.
start some stuff.
Like
there.
Mahomes, like we all know about Mahomes.
How about
just
the
like
Mahomes
professional.
whining stuff? Like I was a big Mahomes guy. Like I'm so even, and this is off topic a bit too. I'll get through it quick. We talk a lot about, it's on with NHL All-Star Game, about guys doing interviews and stuff, how boring they are. You always want a guy to give an opinion. Until they're whining or they're a Gilbert Arenas, like after, like I hate that, and I love Mahomes for that. And then all of a sudden, when he threw that childish temper tantrum whenever they lost on that offside call, which was probably a bullshit call, whatever it was, you won a Super Bowl, just shut up.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
I mean, can we bring up the fact that Tony hasn't played since that game? And he just
Oh, was
tweeted-
that the false injury
yeah,
reports?
that's the things. And so he says that he's been healthy, yet he hasn't been playing.
And he was
So
the
it
one, I
shows
guess.
you that Casey's a little bit.
He's not a guy you can trust
you know,
before that
off the
play.
bench.
anyways.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't at all. I don't even think Scantling was. Scantling had the most drops in the season before.
Yeah. Mahomes, and he plays the game like this. Like after everything's a call against them. They are such an unlikable team that I hope San
They're
Fran.
turning into the Warriors of like NFL.
Yeah,
Golden
it's
State
like you've
Warriors.
won.
It's
Like yeah,
they were likable, like they
Yeah.
were on the come up, like you said. We cheer for the underdog. I think a lot of people liked them when they were coming up. If you were neutral, and now it's getting to the point with Kelsey, with Taylor Swift, him whining Mahomes. It's just like
You see them.
It's,
in
it's
the-
become
you
too
see them
much.
in the
It's
booth
too
doing
Hollywood now, man.
I didn't
And
see that. I didn't see
it's
that.
kind of becoming like Lamar and his Lakers rants.
What a great setting though! Like Vegas, first time in Vegas for the Super Bowl. That'll be an electric weekend. I'm so
It's on
jealous.
prices, too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you got
of
to be a
course.
baller to go. But I'm so jealous of anybody that can go down there. I believe like
That'd be nice, man.
yeah, like so they just had F1 there, which was probably an electric weekend to be
Oh
there
yes,
for like
yeah,
the
yeah,
off
for the first
off
time.
the race
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
The off the field stuff down there is gonna be like I can't imagine Saturday
Imagine
night
all
down
the
there. It's
shows,
gonna
all
be
the things that are
the
gonna
clubs
be
are gonna
there,
be
the clubs.
rocking.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time
so
for
jealous
sure.
of people going. They have the booths in the end zone are like $1 million, and they seat like 15 people.
Well,
so-
there's the McCaffrey and his
Great
GoPro
story, yeah.
and whatever, they couldn't afford it or something like that, like $2.5 million.
What do you mean they can't afford it though? Christian McCaffrey, like they should have a ton of money.
But
no?
$2.5 million to watch a game for a booth is absolutely insane.
It was a
Unreal.
million. I thought it
Why
was
It's not
would they
2.5
do that?
is what I saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, his like fiance had to pay for it. Yeah, great story though.
It's a great story. I'm cheering for San Fran now.
There's going to be a ton of money moving in that weekend though. From Thursday on, it's going to be.
It's all bets. Everything's a bet.
That's like everything's going to be inflated. Drinks anywhere.
Oh, it's gonna be
the
ridiculous.
table limits. I don't even want to know what the table.
Oh, you think everything is going to be?
Everything is.
Everything
gonna
has
be
to be. It's
outrageous.
Super Bowl weekend, man.
Hotels, yeah.
It's only the rich that show up. It's all the
gonna be
owners.
elitist weekend, yeah.
Roger Goodell's gonna be like getting a lot of free drinks this weekend.
Oh
man.
yeah, like booths down there, like a booth in a club down there is probably like 30K regular weekend.
Easy.
It might be like 200K to get
Oh.
like a booth in a club. It's gonna be
Yeah.
very jealous of anybody going to that event.
One last question, NFL, and we'll wrap it up. You can make this quick if you want. If you're Jerry Jones and Dallas Cowboys, did you make the right call bringing back the coach?
No.
Bill Belichick.
I thought that was like
This was
I
so
thought
easy.
it was
like,
the
I-
most
two
simple
old heads
decision.
getting together. Let's
So-
get the right guy, and they blew it.
How was Bill Belichick? I said he should have retired once Brady left because he opened up his door of like,
Is
he
it him or is it the quarterback?
Yeah, like he should have left right away. How do you not go with Bill Belichick? At least to give him like a 2-year flyer, like.
I mean, I think we're all in agreement for that.
I don't like Jerry Jones. Like he's made enough bad decisions. Like I mean, like they're talking about rosters. They have a really good roster. Their defense was good the whole season. So obviously it's a coaching thing. It's probably a quarterback thing too. But
You know, I think like we're all males here. Male ego will blow up teams. It'll blow up things. I don't think Jerry Jones wants to give anybody the
to
credit.
deal with something
But
else.
Jerry
to
Jones.
butt heads.
Jerry Jones wants the credit for when they win. And if Bill Belichick comes in there and wins, then it's because
Bill
they won
saved
'cause
them.
They win because of Bill Belichick. Male ego is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, and it leads to a lot of. I guess,
That's what breaks up most dynasties.
That's true.
I agree. I thought it was a simple decision. Just bring in Bill Belichick. You're gonna win 100% with the talent that you have.
Well, I mean, you gotta at least get to an NFC Championship. You gotta use it. You can't
I
be
mean,
embarrassed like
and
that.
that's why.
But
But
then it's a new story, right? Like I
now
said
the
before. Like,
question's gonna come: are you gonna pay Dak all that money?
well, I mean, they just did after he broke his ankle. He's been a great regular season quarterback, but again, he's almost like the Josh Allen of the NFC, right?
They
Yeah.
have another great roster. Like San Fran, they have a great roster.
They have a great roster.
Can't win the
They
playoffs.
have so many.
They are the
But at least they're
Toronto
getting
Maple
to
Leafs.
Super Bowls. They're getting to conference championships. Dallas, it's like
Yeah.
They're getting a bye if they are losing the first game.
The
Yeah,
Toronto Maple Leafs of the NFL.
it's true.
All right, it's gonna wrap it up for our NFL pod. We're gonna come back soon, talk some other sports. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck on your bets. If you want to make money, take Kansas City.